All right. So that's getting into the next slide. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. Obviously, I stayed up all night, practicing my slides and everything.
You're doing great.
Yes. So price where the market is heading. So when you talk to that seller, the way that you can position this to them is go, look, the way that I see it, you have three options. You can either price the home really high, let it sit. You can price the home with the rest of the market and kind of hope that we stand out, or you can price the home just below the market so we can move quickly and get you into your next house. Which option works best for you? What did I just do there? I gave them the choice without manipulating their choice, but I totally manipulated their choice. They just didn't realize that I did. I laid out the two options that were so-so, and I finished with the option that I felt was going to be best. And then you also asked, what was the best choice for you? What is the easiest choice for you? No, why are they moving? What's the motivation? Do they want to move quick? Do they want to, or are they just out there to just sell to see if they get the price? That's going to be a different conversation and why they're getting onto the market. And then where it's heading right here, I keep doing that. Like it doesn't move the slide. So there's the three options. That's why people hate to feel that they're manipulated into decisions. That's what that softens. They also need help deciding, but also the three options help narrow their decision. A lot of people don't like to be told what to do, but they like to be guided. And that's exactly what we have to do is we have to help guide them towards a decision that's going to make the most sense for them. So as I see it, you have three options. The other person, you're just basically helping them through that decision process. And you're also making yourself seem impartial in doing so. So we're going to have some like fun ones coming up where you guys are going to be like, oh, all right. So what's going to be there? So there's your three lines. And it says of those three options, what's going to be easiest for you? What's going to be best for you? Because you're already implying that there's a good option for them to choose. So that's where it is. And then after that, what do we say? After we say, hey, what's the best option for you? Does anybody know what we say after that? Exactly. Shut up. Be quiet. How many of us get the objection about commission and we just start going, blah, 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 I'm worth it. Like, I just pick me, pay me. I'll do everything. I'll like make sure the bed is made before the showings. I'll turn the lights on. Whatever you need, I do for you. That's why I need the full commission. Right? Okay. So when you're in these conversations, the person who listens and asks the questions has control of the conversation. So as soon as the seller gives you that objection of like, hey, I've met with this broker and they are going to discount their commission. Don't respond with why you would or why you wouldn't. Ask them, well, what's your experience with working with a discount broker? What's your experience in selling a home? Come back with that question because you want to find out more information. A lot of times people are just asking to ask. A lot of times they don't know why. They're just told by their friend that they should ask to discount the commission because most people will cave. And they'll be like, so look, Donna, I'm sure you've run into this. You go into a high dollar listing. You're one of 5 agents interviewing, and they ask you the commission question. Sometimes. Oh, yeah. So usually they're competing. Be like, what is your experience with that? Also, it's like, so as we've gone over, X, Y, and Z, what is it that has you leaning towards a discount broker versus an agent that does a full marketing series like myself? Put the ball back in their quote, dig it out more. Is there somebody who's really into just, yeah, they really think they really like you. They like what you have to say, but there's a disconnect on your value. And so you want to ask more questions so you can figure out why is there that disconnect? Because a lot of times you're just like, I don't know. I guess I'll do it for 5%. You'll be fine. So always ask. So this leads me to the book. And I bet a lot of you were like, I thought she was just going to tell us what to say. And I'm not going to do that all the way. I am going to give you some of the examples. And then we're actually going to watch some videos too on like the differences and how that works. But this is a short book. Did you read it? So it's about to be read. They do have one just for real estate agents, but it is about positioning yourself on what to say and how to say it so that you're not just coming across and creating confrontation, but you're going to more so create like agreement with your sellers, but also get to a point where they can actually, make a decision and like work with you. So why your words matter. So this is all like according to Phil Jones. Excellence is achieved when you know what to say, in addition to hard work and whatever it takes. So your success is in direct correlation with the quantity and quality of questions that you ask. The reason why I say that is because we are going to watch 2 videos. One video is going to be top producer in Annapolis. His name is Phil Gertis. He sells, I don't know, 190 million a year, or, something stupid. It's actually 190 transactions. So, he does okay. And then there's another video of Andy C. He actually makes $21 million a year. That's not in sales. That's in like commissions. And we're going to see how they take their approach. And then we're going to watch how Phil Jones, who's never sold a house in his life, got to the same point in the matter of minutes versus carrying on and on and on. All right. So why don't we actually ask more questions in our presentations? Why do we go immediately to answers? Rich, you have a seller who asks you a question in a presentation. You answer it, don't you?
To the best of my knowledge.
To the best of your knowledge. Rich, do you think I can get top dollar for my house in today's market?
If it's positioned correctly.
Okay. And then what would be a good way to respond back to the question? Why am I asking that to you? That's what we're going to get to. Why am I getting to that? So that's where it's like, if we position it correctly, well, so what's going to be the most important to you on the sale of your home? Is it going to be getting top dollar? Is it going to be moving as quickly as possible? Because that's going to be part of positioning too, right? All right. Something like that. Is anybody bored yet?
No, I'm excited.
You're bored? Excited? All right. Maybe I shouldn't do slides. I usually do better with freeform. We're just going to do a wrap after this.
I like this too. Great.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wait, you said you're gonna do a rap?
Yeah, sure. Why
Okay,
not?
let's do that.
Probably not.
I'll drop a beat after this.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Fear and rejection. So why don't we ask more questions? A lot of us have fear and rejection, right? We either have fear, we have rejection, or we have fear of rejection. That's me. Is it? Yeah. So whenever a seller says no to you, how does that make you guys feel? Sad. Makes me feel sad. I just want to be like, shriveled up in my bed under the covers, and I just want to watch Dawson's Creek all day on Netflix. So fear, no, actually getting to know is just part of the game. So I always look at the one thing in this book that I took away. Actually, he did a whole presentation. One thing I took away from it was this fear and rejection thing. And he was like, just remember, everybody takes it personal. He's like, it is not personal. So he says, when a client says no, it's not a no to you. It's a no to it. And if it's a no to it, that means that it's a no to it right now. So that's why he was like, basically, get over yourself, move on, and ask the questions, make the calls. You call for sale by owner, and they're going to be like, no, I don't want to. Well, that's because they don't really care who you are. They're just saying no to the agent aspect of it. Work through that. A lot of times we run into that fear and rejection. It's like, oh my God, the last thing I want to do is have it dial another number. That's why I'm like, totally believe in auto dialers, because it makes you go. I'm like, yep, no matter what. Well, it's ringing. And then I'm like, well, shit, they answered. Right? So just remember, I like this version of no because it kind of takes that rejection out. It's not a no about you. It's a no to it right now. And I think that kind of helps, at least me, with that emotional side of it. So the rejection-free formula, those are not my words. Those are Phil's words. And yes, there's always a chance that you're still going to be rejected. So what he does with the questions and the way that he proposes things is that it actually creates curiosity with the client. How many of you have buyers that are sitting on the fence right now? Yeah. All right. Buyers have what? Uncertainty about the interest rates, affordability. I have a buyer right now. He's paying, I want to say $1,900 a month for a 3-bedroom apartment on the south side of Indianapolis. It's okay. So, I actually was like, so, hey, curious, I know that you're concerned about the rate and that it's a good time to buy or not buy. How much are you paying in interest right now? And he was like, well, I don't pay interest. I'm renting. And I go, yeah. So like, how much are you paying in interest right now? He goes, I don't know. And I was like, it's 100%. Your interest rate is 100%, AKA goes towards nothing. But there is that affordability aspect to it, right? So if I have a buyer who's, obviously, if you also have a seller with days on market, just know that my buyer will be writing an offer on your house because they need closing costs paid, because we can now do that. So that's exactly what we're doing is I'm shifting that buyer, making it more affordable. People who don't have a lot of cash on hand, we're saying, you know what, marry the house, date the rate. Lenders they're saying that the rates are going to drop. It's not going to happen immediately, but it will eventually happen. That's why you see some lenders who are building in discount points right now. You don't even have an option to go down to prime. They actually want you to pay the discount point up front because they know that people are going to refi on the back end down the road. We're starting to see that, which that means that we know that it's going to come. It's just a matter of when is it going to hit. So curiosity. What I do right there is that it sometimes leads to they've already made up their mind on one thing. But if you raise curiosity, you can actually make them uncertain of their current opinion and have them reevaluate a different type of certainty. This is kind of where it gets a little dangerous. So these words right here, I'm not sure if this is for you. So I have a seller right now there where you'd be like, yeah, we're interviewing a discount broker. And I've got you who's coming in and be like, well, look, I've seen the work of discount brokers. It's, here's my stats on them. Like, I obviously be very careful with that. Here's my stats on them. I don't know if my marketing plan is going to be right for you, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. What I've already just said is I've already created curiosity, and you're just like, what do you mean your marketing plan isn't good for me? Why wouldn't it be good for me? Like, you're already just like, oh, well, what do you mean that's what's going to happen? So I've already piqued their curiosity. Then I'm going to go in and just kind of come in and be like, yep, this is my marketing plan. This is what we do. This is our exposure, blah, blah, blah. Make it quick, get back to the questions. So once I start creating that uncertainty, then we're going to come in with like the empathy, the relatability, and be like, look, I mean, Emily, if I'm like you, I would definitely want the most bang for my buck. Like, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most money for my house with like the least a bit of hassle. You're creating that empathy when you do, if I'm like you, that way that's a relatability. They start to create what? Trust, right? People choose us because they know us, like us, and trust us. So it's becoming relatable. And then you actually have the courage to be like, Emily's fallen in love with you. She likes everything. She doesn't have any questions. We're at the end of the presentation when it's that awkward silence and you're kind of sitting there like, don't they know that right now is the time that we sign contracts? Because they don't. So what we have to do is we have to create action and courage. So that's when we start saying like, hey, the next steps are, we're going to go ahead and get the listing agreement filled out and we order photography. When is a good date for you for pictures? Like, already assuming that you have it in the bag, that's taking it that next step to go ahead and get the contract. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, right. So the other thing with courage too is you're also, if you have somebody coming in with the objection, you can also say like, well, how open-minded would you be to going ahead and listing your home with me and seeing what we get for the next 2 weeks and then doing a price reduction? Or how open-minded would you be to doing a price reduction so we can go ahead and re-syndicate your home and get you in front of a lot more or a larger audience? Or how open-minded would you be if I just came in and just signed the contract? It's so true. I recently had the pleasure of sitting through a presentation with Anderson Windows. Has anybody ever sat through a presentation of Anderson Windows? Exactly. I was like, Why are there 192 slides? Do we have to cover all of them? Also, sir, you don't sell vinyl windows. I told you I was in the market for vinyl windows. There was a disconnect throughout the entire thing. And by the end of it, I was pissed off and ready to hit him in the face. Because did he ask me a single question of what I was looking for and what I needed in a window? He could have saved himself and drive. Like, at that rate, he just would have been like, I'm not sure if our product will make the most sense for you. Could have just let off with that line. I've been like, well, what do you mean your product doesn't make the most sense for me? Like, well, why is that? Well, our windows are this, and this. Why do you think you need new windows? Or like, what makes you think why did you call us? The other one to say too is, if you get a lead coming in, you're like, so I see that you need to sell your house. What is the purpose for you reaching out to us? Like, what's the purpose behind it? Well, that's not like, why are you moving? Right? It's repositioning the way that you ask the questions so you can actually get the answer. Whenever you say, why are you moving to somebody, they're like, we just met. I don't really want to get into that. But if you ask like, so what's the purpose of you reaching out to us to sell your home? They might be a little bit more open to being like, look, my mom, she fell, she has to move in with us. We really need an in-laws quarters. Like, it's just having that open conversation that's like authentic. So the book has like 30 questions and phrases or so to it. These are some of the highlighted ones that I just kind of pulled together. So what is your experience? So when he asked that question in the presentation, he goes, well, what is your experience working with, a professional real estate agent? He goes, oh, it's the first time I sold a home. Like, you just kind of figure out where they're at and where they're positioned. Like, what's your experience with the current marketplace? And, a lot of times I'll have people be like, hey, I really want an agent who's going to post my house on social media. Or you have a for sale by owner who's like, hey, I really want to make sure that the house is on Zillow. Well, what's your experience with like the amount of traction that you get on Zillow? I know that you're gonna get a lot of views, but how many of those views are pre-approved buyers? Like, do you know what we do to help target, the different like pre-approved buyers and different agents? Like, do you know our marketing plan and how we position your home? So it's that kind of thing. It's finding out what is their experience with, especially when they have an objection. Like you said, market crash.
Jokingly.
No, I know, but like jokingly, but like it comes up. It comes up. Yeah. That's exactly it. So I've actually had a seller who literally thought that like, the whole world financial thing was going to fall down. And they were like, well, what do you think about that? And I'm sitting here like, is Rush Limbaugh still alive? Because I haven't paid attention to, certain things, but I'm like, oh man. So going into the theory, I'm not too sure about it, but help me understand, what makes you think that? Because then I just said, instead of saying you're crazy or I'm not understanding you, I'm literally saying like, well, help me understand, like, what makes you say that? Help me understand where you heard that from. And when you position it that way, you can finally figure out, okay, what's the source? Where's it coming from? And then you might be able to get to like okay, no, I totally get that. And I see where you can hear that on like the national news or whatever. But, from our experience right here, this is kind of where we're positioned. And just that way you can break it down. Now, for that answer, though, I literally was like, hey, man, there's no I in team, 6 fish, half a dozen, whatever. But I was just kind of like, well, if it does, if we do have a financial world crash and you're unsure about what will happen to your mortgage payment now or down the road, I was like, probably the same as if what would happen to your mortgage payment today on your current home. So he's just like, what happens if the market crashes? I'm like, I don't know, zombies. They figured it out in Germany after World War II. It'll be fine. That also leads me to, it's just like, it will be okay. So the other question that you probably heard Phil kind of get into is, how important is it to you? So this comes in from sellers, buyers across the board. How important is it to you that you maximize profit? How important is it to you that you're able to move quickly? So how many times do we get a buyer lead that comes in that's like, hey, my lease is up in 45 days. And I'm like, great. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to get this one figured out. But it's like, so you already know important that they need to move immediately. But let's say you take that same type of buyer, they have 6 months to move out. So time isn't one of the things. Same thing with the seller. Like say they have to build, but they don't need to sell before they buy. Well, how important is it to you to get top dollar? Like how important is it to you to minimize your time on the market? Finding out what's the sticking points and working with those sticking points, especially if you got a seller, like we might have a listing coming up in Fishers. They have 7 kids. 7 kids. What do you think is going to be most important for them? Time on the market is down. Yeah. The amount of showings needs to be like, we need that buyer immediately. So, but also finding out if you have a seller that's, they've hit those objections, find out what's important to them, because if they say commission, that's when you have to get into like, it's not about the commission, it's about what you're about to net at the end of the closing. And just because the person before you, I love doing this with expireds. Well, the listing that I had that we just listed at, that agent agreed to a discount commission. I go, did they though? Because they technically didn't get paid because your home never sold. But did they really agree to the discount commission because you never paid a commission? Another thing that I do want to put out there is a listing contract. We all think that is like a winning lottery ticket. This is like the other best thing I heard, like a winning lottery ticket. What a listing contract is actually like you were officially a venture capitalist. You're about to invest money, marketing dollars, time, and effort into this house that may or may not sell. So if I'm sitting across the table from a seller who can't answer how important is it, just wants to see if his house will sell, he's not a ready, willing, and able seller. And so we might want to press the brakes on actually wasting your time with it. But I know that we all get excited and we're like, yeah, we'll buy the listing. Like, I'll take it. Yeah, well, you said $475, it's worth $3, but we'll do it. It'll be fine. Well, now you're wasting time, your own marketing money. They're wasting time. They're going to get fed up with showings really quick to obtain something that was completely unobtainable. So that's when you say, hey, you know what? Listing your home might not make the most sense for you right now. And find out why they really want to move. Ask the questions, ask more questions. All right. Just imagine you were walking across this great field and everything was going to be great. And you were going to sell your home and 18 offers were going to come in, even though interest rates are 13%. I'm just kidding. Okay, so Just Imagine is basically a play on who here has small children or has nieces, nephews, whatever. You read them stories, right? So what do stories do for people? Paint pictures in your head? Yeah, you follow the story, you've got your own version of what's going on in there. So Just Imagine opens up that door for you to be like, hey, this is where we are positioning. It's time for you to tell a story. So an offer comes in and the seller thinks it's low. Hey, just imagine, what if that was the only offer that did come in and we're 6 months or like we're 6 weeks down the road? Are you going to be kicking yourself that we didn't accept it? Like, use that to paint the picture. Just imagine that you hired that discount broker and you went ahead and offered a low BAC and you were sitting on the market 7 weeks from now with no showings and no this, and that agent's not getting you any exposure. How does that make you feel? So it is, use that to tell stories. The other thing is discount broker, another one, lower commission. How certain are you that that broker is going to be able to actually sell your house? Put the ball in their court. How certain are you that they're going to be able to get you top dollar without a marketing budget? Could it be possible? That's another one with like offers coming in, seller expectations, especially when we get back to that chart of like where that market data is. Could it be possible that this could be our only offer that we get in without having to reduce the price? Could it be possible? Right. And then the help me understand, we've kind of already covered. There's a question. I don't know how to say it. Help me understand. And then one of my other favorites is how would you feel if? I use that with sellers to set that expectation for what the buyer's mortgage payment's going to be. You know, hey, this is the buyer, this is where they're at. This is our only offer. How would you feel if you were also getting that amount of payment? I know it's not your problem, but this is what they're having to pay and they need discount points or they need that, especially if you have closing costs that come in. How would you feel if this were your payment? And put that, it allows the seller to put the buyer's shoes on so that they have a realistic expectation of what's going to happen. The other thing though, too, do your due diligence. When you're looking at comps, does anybody look to see what kind of loan type? Were there closing costs paid at the bottom? Yeah. No, who's going to be buying the house? Like you look into a certain neighborhood and you see that on average, the comps have $3,000 in paid closing costs. Build it into your net sheet. Be smart about it. Be upfront about it. Right. And then when would be a good time? When would be a good time is really good for already setting up that expectation that they're going to have an appointment with you and that like you've already got it in the bag and you're already telling them there's a good time. So there isn't a bad time. Whenever you make a call, like a cold call, and you call like for sale by owner or lead or whatever, and you're like, hey, is now a good time to talk? No, I'm in the middle of X, Y, and Z. Instead, you'd be like, when is a good time for us to meet? When is a good time for us to get coffee? Or at the listing contract, when is a good time for us to get photos? I'm already going to sign here. When is a good time? That way the person's already thinking that it's a good time to do X, Y, and Z. All right, open for, I mean, I know you guys are hungry. It's been like an hour, but that is the last slide. Does anybody have like questions, situations, anything you guys want to ask, or have I bored you to death?
No.
No.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I have these buyers,
Mhm.
who's a couple, and they were very gung-ho last year about moving. And there were plenty of houses in their area of Indianapolis on the market and everything was fine. But then all of a sudden she's like, it's not a good time to move right now. We're going to put it on hold for maybe another year. So
Okay.
around now.
Yeah.
I have my suspicions that it has to do with maybe some family situations, but have you ever been in that situation where obviously you don't want to come out and say, oh, hey, you're having some personal problems? Is that why you're pushing it back? Because here's what we can do. I mean, do you have a way that you broach those?
Usually I will come back with that, like, no, I mean, I totally understand. When do you think a good time for you would be to buy? Try and get to that underlying thing without like being right
without
then and
being
there.
direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then also just be like, you know, how important is it to you to actually become a homeowner by the end of the year?
Mhm.
You know, like then when you phrase it that way, just in like, hey, like what's going on?
Yeah.
Like how important is it to you to become a homeowner? You know,
Right.
You had said, you know, last year that you wanted this because of X, Y, and Z. You know, how important is it that we meet those goals by the end of this year?
Right. And see, they're on a month to month.
So
And
they're
they've been
already
renting
being escalated.
they've been renting for 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're way overdue.
And I
on
mean,
purchasing,
if they
so.
come back and there's like, look, the interest rates are too high. And I'm like, well, how certain are you that they aren't going to keep going up?
Right.
I mean, the way I see it, you've got 3 options. You can keep renting at 100% interest. You can lock in now at a higher rate than it was earlier, or you can lock in or wait and lock in at a higher rate because there's going to be more announcements.
Mhm.
Or you can go ahead and get under contract, lock it in now while it's going to be higher than what it was. You're going to be in that position where, hey, at least it wasn't higher when they announced the next rate, and we can refi in the next couple of years.
Right. Because a lot of them are very close to the vest with their, with their business. And I understand that, but
Right.
you just don't know what approach to take when they won't share with So I was just
Yeah.
wondering if there's. a way
It's all
to-
just about asking questions.
Right.
And sometimes it is. It's like if it's something personal,
Mhm.
it's okay.
Mhm.
And you just have to roll with that and just go, hey, you know what? If it is something personal, be like, the good news is that that's a thing. We know how we're going to tackle it. And let's touch base, down the road and get you back into that homeownership.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Another fun one is if you've sent your buyers a lender, but they haven't filled out their application yet,
I got a ton.
haven't signed their paperwork. Yeah. That one's always fun. That one can be more of that position, be like, hey, I'm guessing you haven't reached out to the lender to fill out your paperwork because you've already said what you think they're going to tell you. And you've already taken the negative away by doing that. So I'm guessing you haven't, reached out to Amy to get your paperwork filled out for the loan, or be like, either, no, I have. They're going to be super excited and be like, no, I need to, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get that done tonight. Like it already makes them set up that expectation that they're going to finish it.
Mhm.
So that's the other one. You're either going to get the positive or they're going to start doing that plan of action because they don't want to let you down.
How do you handle situations when homes like right now, for example, I have a listing. Got an offer after 3 days on market, which is amazing, over ask.
Mhm.
The inspection came back and there's like a slew of things wrong. It's gonna be probably what they're wanting to ask for. I haven't actually received the inspection response yet, but verbally, it's probably gonna be about 12 grand.
Okay.
And my sellers are in a position where they can't afford to do them. So what do you do with a house like in this situation?
What I typically do with inspection items like that, if they can't afford to do it, I'll see what that list is, what is going to be considered the have to do items, but work with a company who will get paid at closing. So have as much as Indiana residential is stupid expensive, but they let the seller pay the invoice at closing. So you can still get the work done or get quotes for the work and have it paid at closing, check made out to those contractors. Work will be completed afterwards because the sellers just don't have the funds to do so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and do that all on inspection responses. And then you'll need basically an addendum, and it has to be made out to licensed contractors who have a EIN number because they can't just make the check out to Chuck.
Great.
Right. Yeah.
You go through a coaching program. You
Mhm.
go very.
Robin and I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it seemed like that guy was a legit buyer on the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
That's-
actually a broker owner of I think 40 or 50 agents. And
the seller?
the seller in there. Yeah.
That was his first time.
No. So it's all role play.
Okay, that's cool.
It was all role
He
play.
did a good job acting.
But the guy who played the seller got his license 8 years ago. His first week, this is by any means not a coaching thing, but started coaching 1 week into real estate, and he's now a broker owner over 100 agents in just eight years. So, but yeah, it's all about that. It's all about exposure and how you guys can step your game up. But yeah, it's literally, I like the book. I think that it poses some really good areas. You guys will read through it and be like, oh man, I could have used that last week and stuff like that. So I have too.
I stopped stuff because I knew I was taking notes and you would listen when I'm working out. So
Mm-hmm.
I just have the time to watch this.
It's, the nice perks of the new Kindle version is it can tie into Audible and it can read it to you. So if you ever want to stop what it's doing and see the page of what it's talking about, I'm a audio learner. So, but yeah, that's the fun part on it. So there's a lot of things, and there's tools and stuff, but basically what I'll be doing is any types of scripts that we have or follow up, we will be adjusting them to take more of these types of questions and statements to help maximize, what we get out of our clients and their answers.
Oh, featured writers. What was the name of the book now?
Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. Yep.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway, I'd say, is like, so the connecting piece. So I feel like these questions really help you develop trust with
Mhm.
clients too. It's like less transactional, more like building a friendship. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, what's your experience? Oh, cool. Tell me about it. I just felt
Exactly.
instead of being disconnected, you're just like absolutely tuned into
Oh yeah.
what they're doing.
You get tuned into what they're doing, but it's all about having a conversation, but it's also about listening. And what I found is I'm very much into numbers and facts, as you guys well know from the start of my presentation, but I can prove the data. I will take notes on the data. I will tell you the data in and out. But what I was missing was finding out why that seller was moving. And I kept trying to impress based on like, I can show you the stats. I know where to position. Like I was Phil Gertising all day. But what I wasn't doing is seeing how they felt and taking that in. And that's like the difference maker. These questions can also be used in negotiations. So I have used these against other realtors when I submit offers, and they work. They work really well. There's one that we literally left, and I wrote an offer literally after he spoke, and I just phrased the way I positioned, like submitting the offer with a few of the statements, and we got an offer accepted 65,000 under list.
Oh.
First right.
Huh.
Yeah. Any other things you guys want to pick? It doesn't have to be this. It can be anything. I know everybody sits there and just like zombie whenever I'm done speaking.
I have a client that I've been nurturing for a while.
Yeah.
And she has told me that they made a commitment to me using me on the buy side, but their house that they've already talked to like offer pad at the door. One of those companies have an offer. She can't tell me which one because she supposedly can't remember because her husband dealt with it. But her husband, for one, has been through surgery and was in a long recovery. So her statement is that I wanted to make it easy in selling the house. But then she's also told me that her husband, he's retired now, used to be a builder.
Mhm.
And there was a comment made about paying the commissions and everything. So I'm not really sure what the real reason is yet. I've asked questions and talked to her, but it's kind of like, I don't know, any ideas on how to get over the objection of them selling to someplace like that and actually letting them list it?
Help me understand why you feel that Open Door and OfferPad is a good fit for you. What about that do you feel is making what about that do you feel is making it easier? How important is maximizing the amount of profit from the sale of that home? You know, that's basically what it is. And I mean, you can throw in the stats, like the average OfferPad house sells 11% below market. And so that's where I'm like 11% below market, 11%, 6%. I mean, I'm okay at math, but to me, that's a no-brainer. And it's all about keeping your cool too. That's why I'm like, listen to the book multiple times, like do the scripts, talk to yourself in the mirror if nobody else wants to do scripts with you, like sell yourself, because a lot of it's about just keeping your cool and not being that deer in the headlights. Know that the objection's coming and know how to respond with the answers. So the other one is what makes you say that, you know, so it's just going to be easier. Well, what about that makes you say that? It's very much just like, that's where it's like, how important is it? And we just keep going back in those circles.
Stephanie asked if you could share some scripts you have studied.
Yes, I've studied, well, this book is like the one that I'm taking to new heights. But I've studied Brandon Lorenan's script book. It's free on his website. And he uses reverse selling techniques, which is very similar to this, where it's very much just like asking questions, gaining empathy, relatability to move forward. But his scripts are mainly for sale by owner, pricing objections, and expireds. So, any other questions?
And then will you send this presentation out?
No. Yeah, no, I will. So hard copies are 15, PDFs are, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'll convert this into a PDF. Yeah.
No.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. And then thanks again to Amy and Alexi with Rough Mortgage for the pizza
Thank
out there. And then Lana, you have words of wisdom.
No, I don't have any words. I'm sorry I missed part of it because it was really good when I had to leave and she wrapped it up with a lot of really good information. So sorry I missed the note.
Oh, you're good.
The salad. So
No, I didn't, but
No.
but the pizza driver must have been in a really big hurry and took some wild turns because two of the pizzas were all jacked up in there and I tried to flatten them out as much as I could. So that wasn't me.
yeah, okay.
Hey, Mel.
Yeah.
It was
Thank
the
you very
driver.
much for sending over the inspection
Yeah.
response
Yeah.
on foliage. Did you
Yeah.
need anything else from me today?
No, that's it, girl.
That's it.
That's
All
it.
right.
Like, we're taking it as is.
You didn't do the place.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
the inspection had like 3 stupid small items. Like,
Yeah.
it was super clean, which I wasn't really expecting much
Yeah.
of anything.
Right. Well, you should,
Yeah.
because that's just how you think,
Yeah.
something's been lived in for a while.
I mean, it was literally 3 items of like drywall tape in the garage and like the utility neutral just need to be tapped in.